friends, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to start with our new series of paper 1 in general, and that is teaching aptitude. So let's start with teaching introduction. Teaching includes all the activities of providing education to others. The person who provides education is called teacher, and his duty is to encourage the students learn the subject. Teaching means interaction of teacher and students. They participate for their mutual benefits. Teaching is the strategy of how a teacher satisfies his students through his effective teaching. Teaching is an act which assists learning in an individual. It involves the application of desired skills, techniques, and procedures which facilitate learning. Now let's start with the teaching definitions. So traditional definition is teaching is the act of imparting instruction to the learner in the classroom situation. And the modern definition is teaching is to cause the pupil to learn and acquire the desired knowledge, skills, and also desired ways of living in the society. According to Morrison and many other writers shown on the screen, you can check out the definitions. Now let's start with some short definitions of teaching. Teaching is one of the instruments of education, and its a special function is to impart understanding and skill. The main function of teaching is to make learning effective. The learning process would get completed as a result of teaching. So teaching and learning are very closely related. Teaching means interaction between teachers and learner, means student. Teaching is a process in which one individual teaches or instructs another individual. Teacher is considered as the act of imparting instructions to the learner in the classroom situation. It is watching systematically. Nature and characteristic of teaching. The main character of teaching is to provide guidance and training. Teaching encourages students to learn more and more. Teaching is communication of information of students. In teaching, teacher imparts information in an interesting way so that student can easily understand the information. A teacher can teach effectively if he has full confidence on the subject. Teaching is an interaction between teacher and students. Teacher is an art to giving knowledge to students with effective way. Teaching is a science to educate fact and cause of different topics of different subjects. Teaching is continuing process. Teaching is formal as well as informal. Some of the objectives of teaching: build a solid foundation for pupil to learn, explain the relevance of the subject being taught, focus on all-round development, connect with the learner in a structured manner, formation of a belief system, overcome their individual differences to make learning in a scientific manner, desired changes in pupil, shape behavior and conduct, acquisition of knowledge, improve learning skill, provide a social and efficient member to the society. So these are some of the objectives of teaching up. Now we start that teaching as an art. Teaching as an art exhibits ways in which the teacher uses creative ways to teach the students, and so the students find it to be fun and interesting to learn. It is alleged that even though when using the artistic methodology to teach the students, the teacher must know the subject themselves and research the material well before they begin to teach. As a teacher, they need to determine the methods and strategies that work best for them. Teachers are not standardized products. What works for one teacher might not work for another. Thus, all the teaching strategies a teacher learns should be adopted and adapted to meet particular teaching situation and their personal teaching style. A teacher must crave out their own teaching philosophy and discover their own unique talent and learn how to use them. Now we learn that teaching as a science. Teaching is a science that demonstrates ways in which the teacher may employ a more logical approach to deliver the material to the students. It is a it is a sort of traditional way of teaching in which teachers teach their class. An example of this could be a teacher lecturing their class on the topic being discussed. This type of teaching tends to be monotonous and boring, and the teacher faces a harder time keeping the students' attention. However, any type of teaching needs a scientific background or base. Teaching is a science as the teacher collects data by observing to see if the learning is taking place and how the students can best learn. Much like scientists, teachers experiment with new strategies or techniques to see how they work. Now start with some classroom management styles that are authoritarian, democratic teaching, and laissez-faire attitude. So let's start with authoritarian. According to this viewpoint, teaching is an activity of memory level only. This teaching does not develop thoughts and attitude in the students. It is known as thoughtless teaching. This teaching is teacher-centric criticism of the teacher. In democratic teaching, according to this viewpoint, teaching is done at the understanding level. Memory level teaching is the prerequisite is first memorized and then understand. Such teaching is known as thoughtful teaching. According to this point of view, teaching is an interactive process primarily involving classroom talks and take places between teachers and students. Here students can ask questions and criticize the teachers. Here student can ask questions and self-discipline is insisted. In laissez-faire attitude, it is known as reflective level teaching. It is more difficult than memory level and understanding level of teaching. Memory level and understanding level teaching are must for the reflective level of teaching. It is highly thoughtful activity. In this level, both student and teacher are participants. This level produces insights. Now we're going to study about some of the terms related to teaching, that is coaching. In coaching, coaching is provide guidance, feedback and direction to ensure successful performance. Coaching is supporting someone's effort to achieve personal and professional goal. Coaching is different from traditional instruction. Teaching implies as end at content mastery. Coaching takes place over a lifetime. Coaching is an art of facilitating the performance, learning, and development of another. Next is mentoring, the most abstract development method. Mentoring is transformational and more of human development activity and represent a relationship in which a more experienced or more knowledgeable person like mentor helps to guide a less experienced or less knowledgeable person like mentee. This mentor can be either assigned to or selected by the mentee. The mentor can be either a direct superior or the mentor can be from another department or even another industry altogether. For a mentorship relationship to be beneficial, the mentee has certain obligations which they must fulfill so that they can reap the benefits brought by the presence of mentor in their life. Next is training. In training is a technique frequently used in organization to build a person's skill, knowledge, and attitude in order to meet the accepted standards by the specific industry. Training is the practical side of learning, which provides people skill they need to perform a certain task, provide instructions, guidelines, and skills, and helps to develop their performances. Focuses on skill and abilities, involves a practical approach, often take place in a work environment. Next is counseling. Counseling is a part of guidance process. It is a process in which a pupil, student, individual is approached on an individual level. Concept of counseling in education may be described as the interaction developing through the relationship between a counselor and a person in a temporary state of indecision, confusion, or distress, which help that individual to make its own decisions. Counseling is face to face communication by which you help the person to make decision or solve a problem and act on them. Counseling is a helping process aimed at problem solving. Counseling done with individual, group, or with couple. Now let's go through with the comparison between coaching, mentoring, training, and counseling. That is shown on the screen. You can check it out. In this, we provide you definition, objective, time, and many more. Like we see that in definition, coaching is method in which an individual is supervised by a superior person to improve his competencies and capabilities. In mentoring, it is an advisory process in which a fresher gets support and guidance from a senior person. And in training is a teaching or developing in oneself or others any skill and knowledge that relate to specific useful competences. And in counseling, it is a talking therapy that allows people to discuss their problems with trained professionals in a peaceful and a safe ambience. Objective are also shown. Its time, its goal, like in coaching it is a performance improvement. In mentoring, it is a intentional growth investment. In training, it is a goal collective. And in counseling, it is a personal well-being. You can also check type, content like based on need of the job, based on advice giving and direction. In training, based on leader. And in counseling, it is based on need of the client. Its progress like depend on motivation, depend on predetermined goals, depends on training effectiveness, depends on severity of issues. Some other differences are like level of accountability, that is middle to higher level. In mentoring, it is high intense level. In training, it is low level. And in counseling, it's a middle level. Its methods, its relationship are also shown on the screen. You can go through it. Communication styles are like in coaching, it is co-created, considered how to achieve something, ask question, listen, and give feedback. In mentoring, questions and exploration by mentor, ask question, listen, and give advice. In training, technical or soft focus like tell, advise, and ask question. In counseling, why oriented are there, like tell, advise, and ask questions. Now come with different variables of teaching that are dependent variable, that is the student, independent variable, that is the teacher, and interviewing variable, that is learner, that is learning curriculum. Different variables of teaching are: the teacher is an independent variable. He is responsible for the functioning of students. The dependent variable: he is free to act in the process while students are quite dependent on him. The teacher plans, organizes, leads, and controls the process of teaching. Like dependent variables, independent variable also play the functional or active part. There is a need of desirable interaction between the dependent and the independent variable to achieve the goal of teaching. This role is played by the interviewing variables. The content of teaching, method and techniques, tactics and strategies, management of instructional material and teaching environment, etc. are the intervening variable. The student is a dependent variable. He is subjected to changes and developments through the efforts of the teacher and teaching process. In the process of teaching, the dependent variable plays the functional and active part. Let's come up with the basic requirements of a good teacher. So that are: good teaching is as much about passion as it is about reason. Good teaching is about substance and treating student as consumer of knowledge. Good teaching is about not always having a fixed agenda and being rigid, but being flexible, fluid, experimenting, and having the confidence to react and adjust to changing circumstances. Good teaching is about caring, nurturing, and developing minds and talents. Good teaching is supported by strong and visionary leadership and very tangible instructional support, resources, personal, and funds. Good teaching is about listening, questioning, being responsive, and remembering that each student in class is different. Good teacher is also about style, and this is very important. Good teaching is about humor also. Good teaching is about mentoring between senior and junior faculty, teamwork, and being recognized and promoted by one's peer. Now come with the instructional triangle, and that is teacher, content, and student. Teacher, a deep content knowledge is necessary. Powerful 21st century skills, capacities and depositions, solid language and literacy development expertise, strong child adolescent cognitive development. Competency is in specific language and cultures of target student, facilitation, negotiation and collaboration skill. Teacher and student triangle base is asset approaches, meaningful engagement, differentiation of all level, continuum of multiple assessment, data analysis and interpretation skills, creative critical thinking of inquiry, knowledge application to real world issues, creation of new knowledge and innovations. And the teacher student triangle is about relationship personalization, powerful critical pedagogy, responsive to language, culture, lived experience, equity, empowering belief system, child adolescent cognitive development, facilitation, negotiation and collaboration skill, advocacy and orientation and skill. Now come up with the principle of teaching. Principle for teaching are: principle of motivation, principle of activity like learning by doing, principle of interest, principle of linking with life, principle of definite aim, principle of recognizing individual differences, principle of selection, principle of planning, principle of division, principle of revision, principle of democratic dealing, principle of creation and recreation. Now let's start with the formal education. Formal education is commonly based on a vertical relationship between the pupil, student and the teacher, where the holder of the knowledge is the teacher and the receiver is the student. The teacher mostly deliver knowledge to student in the form of courses and curricula. At the end of the learning pathway, a written document or generally recognized diploma recognize the knowledge acquired by the learner. The formal education is given by a specially qualified teacher. They are supposed to be efficient in the art of instruction. It is also observe strict discipline. The student and the teacher both are aware of facts and engage themselves in the process of education. Some of the examples are like learning in a classroom, school grading, certification, college and university degrees, planned education of different subjects having a proper syllabus acquired by attending the institution. Next is formal education characteristic. These are some of the characteristics of formal education that are education imparted by formal institute like schools, colleges and universities. Hierarchical, teacher to student and objective defined by external entity. Definite curriculum and courses of studies are framed to teach the students and definite duration of years required to complete the courses. Based on individual competition, geared towards the future, learn how and practice later. Though the main center of formal education in school are colleges, but library, museum, zoo, picture galleries, lectures, symposia, etc. serve as agency of formal education. Proper time schedule prepared for day-to-day personalized teaching and semester or yearly planning of academic session and implemented. Selective in each level, not all proposer of the next level. Some of the advantages and disadvantages of formal education. Let's start with the advantages. You can get knowledge in a systematic way, an organized educational model and up-to-date course content. In formal education, you get grade on the basis of your performances. Students acquire knowledge from trained and professional teachers. This is the most basic source to gain study. Intermediate and final assessment are ensured to advance some students to the next learning phase. You get a certificate in this study. In formal education, you study the concept which help you in getting a job in future. Now come up with some of the disadvantages that are the biggest disadvantages of this is that it can be costly for some families, wastage of time as some lazy student may fail to learn properly in spite of motivation by the professional trainers. You have to study with other students so you can be influenced by some bad habits of other students. Your knowledge will be judged on the basis of how well you memorize the concepts. All students are not the same, so an average student can feel demotivated by watching other brilliant students. Chance of bad habits. Adoption may be alarming due to presence of both good and bad students in the classroom. Now come with the informal education, that is learning that goes on in daily life and can be received through daily experiences such as from family, peer groups, the media and the other influences in a person environment. Informal education may be parent teacher a child how to prepare a meal or ride a bicycle. Unlike formal education, informal education is not imparted by an institution such as school or college. Informal education is not given according to any fixed timetable. There is no set curriculum required. Informal education consists of experiences and actually living in the family or community. Its example is practical adult learning, someone learning his/her mother tongue, a spontaneous type of learning. If a person standing in a bank learns about opening and maintaining the account at the bank from someone. Its characteristics are informal education is also called natural or incidental education. No formal or non-formal institute is required to provide informal education. For informal education, there is no need of any curriculum, methods of teaching, teacher, mentor, and place of teaching. No fees are required as we get informal education through daily experience and by learning new things. It is independent by boundary walls. It has no definite syllabus. It is not pre-planned and has no timetable. Education and experiences acquired during travel, interaction with people, family discourses, community and social dealings, interaction with the environment, neighborhood, cultural and religious activities are necessarily informal education. It is a lifelong process in a natural way. The certificates, degrees are not involved and one has no stress for learning new things. Some of the advantages and disadvantages of informal education. So now let's start with the advantages. Creating informal learning situation can be less costly and more time efficient given all the social media technologies and electronic devices we have today. Learning informally can be more personal and less intimidating for some people. Experts may be more willing to share their knowledge with others this way. Since learning this way happens more naturally during the flow of someone's work day, people may be less likely resist learning new things. A variety of techniques are utilized. More naturally learning process as you can learn at anywhere and at any time from your daily experience. Some of the disadvantages are information acquired from the internet, social media, TV, radio, or conversation with friends, family members may lead to the disinformation. Utilized techniques may not be appropriate. No proper schedule, time span, unpredictable result, which is simply the wastage of time. Lack of confidence in the learner, absence of discipline, attitude, and good habits. Now we'll start with non-formal education. Learning through practice and experience in accordance with the principle. Tell me and I will forget. Show me and I will remember. Involve me and I will understand. Based on different from the traditional one teacher-student relation. The first one plays the role of facilitator, mentor, trainer, coach, and instead of passing truth, knowledge included textbooks, support, voluntary participation in the educational process of the student who becomes his partner. Based on the voluntary participation of the learners, carried out in planned and organized way. Take place outside the school, university, or other formally organized training courses in the spare time under variety of context and variables social environment. Some examples are Boy Scouts and Girl Guide develop some support program such as swimming comes under non-formal education, fitness program, community-based adult education courses, free courses for adult education developed by some organization. Some of the characteristics of non-formal education are the non-formal education is planned and take place apart from the school system. The timetable and syllabus can be adjustable. Unlike theoretical formal education, it is a practical and vocational education. No hierarchical relationship. Educator is a process facilitator. Active and participatory methodologies. Flexible and adapted to the needs of participants. Non-formal education has no age limit. Fees or certificate may or may not be necessary. It involves learning of professional skills. voluntary participation, there is educational intentionality, practice and problem solving. Some of advantages and disadvantages of formal education. So let's start with advantages that are: one can earn while learning, one becomes self dependent and self confident, habit of hard work is developed, there is a proper use of leisure time, usually the student of non formal education, it is highly flexible adjustable, it includes both theoretical and practical education, there is generally no age limit to gain this type of education. Disadvantages are: if you are learning it just as hobby, you don't require a professional or a trained teacher to impart non-formal education. No regular examination are conducted to evaluate the skill development. High possibility to fake certificates through different institutions. Basic reading and writing skill are crucial to learn. No professional and trained teachers are required. Attendance of participant is unsteady. So you can go through with this comparison chart of formal education, informal education, and non-form education. In this, you can see that place of learning, syllabus, learning structure, compulsion, purpose of learning, assessment, motivation, and types of activities. You can go through it. So students, thank you for today. Next part is uploaded soon. So if you like my video, please like, subscribe and share my channel. Thank you.